Okay, now it's my turn. So, as you guys may have heard, my name is Ava, and I'm sharing my testimony. And something is about me is I always thought I had a very, very boring testimony. And a lie that I believed was that my testimony was too boring to be used by God. And so I was like, I don't really want to share a testimony because I grew up in a Christian home. I have a Christian family. I have 3 amazing brothers. And my life just seemed like, of course, there's been challenges, but there's been a steady growth of just my faith life. And so I always thought, I'm like, my testimony's too boring. But whenever I was asked to share a testimony, there was one I went to. So I'm going to share that with you guys right now. And then I'm going to share with you guys something that happened because of this. And so something I said, I have 3 brothers. I have no sisters, which it can be rough at times, especially growing up. All I wanted was a sister. And I remember there were so many times I was like, God, give me a sister. I begged my parents to have more kids so that I could get a sister, but I never did. And so I really depended on friends. But I also did not have a lot of friends. I have been homeschooled my whole life, so I don't see a lot of people in school, and I grew up dancing. And in dance, at least in my experience, I knew a lot of people, but not a lot of them were close friends. And so eventually, after years of praying and asking God for friends, I came to youth in grade 8, and I have an amazing youth group and amazing leaders. And these people became my sisters, and they've walked alongside me for the past 5 years now, which is crazy. And so that essentially is the testimony that I share. And I always thought, I was like, okay, it's too boring. But now I'm going to share a very, very cool story, and this story is incredible. But so last year I went on the missions trip to North Battleford. And around a week before the missions trip, I came to the point where I was like, I messed up because I didn't prepare well enough. I was like, okay, now God's not going to use me because I didn't spend enough time praying and like emotionally and spiritually preparing myself and preparing my heart for this trip. And so I was kind of just like, oh my goodness, I messed up. Now this trip's going to be a waste. But I went to a friend and I just told him what I was thinking, what I was feeling. And he spoke 2 things to me. And he said, you are not Superman, but God is. And so God is not going to let your lack of preparation I lost a word, but I essentially ruin what he has planned. And so he said those things to me. And then he also said that God has been preparing you for this trip throughout your entire life, and that your preparation from this trip didn't start this past year. And so I went into the trip with those truths on my heart, and I was like, okay, God, like, I'm ready to be used, and I don't know how you are, if you are, but like, if it's your will, please use me. And so this trip started, and it was going great. And it started on the 3rd day of our sports camp. So we were running sports camps on the First Nations reserves. And it was the 3rd day, and we were at the Moosomin First Nations Reserve. And there were around 20-ish volunteers and leaders. And we started the day with 9 kids. And for lots of us on the trip, that was just kind of sad. And we were like, oh boy, there's no one here. What's God going to do? But because there was not a lot of kids, we got a lot of one-on-one time with kids. And there was this one girl who walked in, and immediately when she walked in, she came to me, and we were partners for the game right at the beginning of the camp. And after that, she was like, hey, come play this sport with me, come play this sport with me. So we ended up playing all the sports together for the entire day, which was very, very cool. And we were nearing the end of the first day at that camp, and she was tired, and she sat down, and I sat down with her, and she was like, Ava, can you tell me a story? And I was like, okay, what do you want to hear? And she said, tell me your life story. And I was like, oh, like, this is a great chance to share my testimony. And so I started, and I just said, I grew up in a Christian home. Do you know what that means? She was like, no. And I was like, okay. And then I said, a Christian is someone who follows Jesus. Do you know who Jesus is? She was like, well, I've heard about him from young Sheldon. So I was like, oh boy, we have a lot to explain here. And so I started just explaining to her who Jesus was and what it meant to be a Christian and to follow Jesus. And then I shared with her that I have 3 brothers and 0 sisters, which is the exact same thing for her, the exact same situation she was in. And then I shared with her about my struggle to make friends for so many years. And she said that she was in that exact same position. And then after that, after I had finished sharing my testimony and I had been talking about church and the friends that I had made, I said, would you like to make the decision to follow Jesus? And she was like, you know what? I would, but I've done too many bad things to make that decision, that I'm not worthy of that. So I shared with her and I was like, you know what? I'm not either. But that's the thing about Jesus, is that he makes it as if we have never done those wrong things when we believe in him. So I explained this to her and she was like, okay, like, yes, but I still don't know if Jesus is real. And I was like, okay, we can just pray and we can ask God to reveal himself to you and to reveal his power to you. And she was, okay, but I don't know how to pray. And I was like, okay, we can pray simple words. Like, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but you can pray as if you're talking to your best friend. And I said, we can pray when we're scared. We can pray when we're happy. We can pray when we feel desperate. We can pray in any situation. She was like, okay. So I led her through just a very, very simple prayer, just asking God to reveal himself to her. And then when we finished praying, I explained to her some of the ways that God had revealed himself and his power to me. And one of those ways for me has always been storms and rain and thunder and lightning. I love storms because afterwards there's always a rainbow. And I told her this, and I told her there's also many, many other ways that people have seen God's power revealed. But those are what I told her. And then I gave her a Bible, and she went home for that day. And so I was sharing this with the team as we debriefed at the end of that day. And I was like, okay, this is really cool. And so we prayed for her. And while we were praying for her, there was thunder. And this thunder was so loud. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, God, please help this girl to be seeing this or feeling this or whatever. And then we had to drive back from the Mooseman to the church that we were partnering with. And on the way back, we got 3 tornado warnings, which was kind of crazy. And we were like, oh my goodness, what's happening? And then we got back, and there was rain, and there was lightning, and there was thunder, and it was crazy. But there was this incredible rainbow. And I saw it, and I was like, God, I just pray that this girl would be seeing this tonight. And God, that she would know that it was you and your power doing this. And so the next day came, and everyone was absolutely exhausted. I know for me, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it through another day. We had spent the entire week serving, but it was the last day, and I was like, God, give me energy. And when the girl walked through the door, I had so much energy that didn't run out for the entire day. And we got to spend the entire day together again. And I had 2 really cool conversations with her. And the first one was just before lunch. She came to me and she said, hey, I saw the storm last night. And then I saw the rainbow. And I remembered what you told me about God's power being revealed through storms for you. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. But I was like, hey, God, like, if you want anything to happen, I want you to bring her to me again and give me an opportunity to just like, or give her an opportunity to say to me, yes, I want to follow Jesus. And so we went through basically the rest of the day again, and it was right before dinner, and we were almost done. She said, Ava, I have something to tell you. I was like, okay, what is it? And she was like, okay, so last night I was in my room, and my room was really dark, and I was scared, and I was afraid. But I remembered when we were talking about praying, how you said I could ask Jesus to be with me. So I did, and I wasn't scared anymore. And I want to make the decision to follow Jesus. And so I got the opportunity to pray with her, and that day she accepted Jesus, which is so cool. So I started this off saying that I thought my testimony was too boring, but it isn't. And a verse that came to mind when I was just thinking about what I was going to share is 2 Timothy 1:8, and specifically the first half. And it says, so do not be ashamed of the gospel, or of the testimony of our Lord. So whatever your testimony is, whether you've had an incredible life-changing testimony, or it's just been a testimony of God's continual faithfulness in your life, God can use it to do amazing things.